You're on mute, Alan.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. This is my final presentation. Just a basic overview of my presentation. I'll start off talking about me, then talking about my assignments, then finishing off with some key questions and concepts that I learned. So I go to Cal State Long Beach. I'm currently a mechanical engineering major, and I'll be graduating next year. As for my hobbies, I like 3D printing and I also play the violin. Basic overview of my assignments. First, I'll be talking about what I did with DLC, then a little bit of what I did with Sustainability 2.0, which is just an action towards innovative and environmentally friendly products, and I'll finish off with new product development and how I supported them. So DLC 5.1 is really important because it basically takes into account energy efficiency and quality of light for all the families of lights. So if we put all our products up to DLC standards, then they'll be really good for our company and also qualify for really nice rebates. So as you can see, there are 2,598 SKUs, which is a lot to deal with. And not only that, but we also have deadlines to manage as well. So the overall process for DLC is we start with the SKUs from the old application, and we check to see which SKUs have met the efficacy or any technical requirements that 5.1 has. And once we know which ones are passable, we test out the samples and send it out for DLC. And all this is a lot of work, and I have helped out with trying to see if we could optimize this process by only doing the high return SKUs versus the entire family, just 3 versus 1,000. And as you can see, this table represents that the family cost is about 3 times more as the individual SKUs, which is really important to consider. Not only that, but we could also look at the different testing sites, UL versus Light Labs. And not only that, but we could also see what happens if we update now versus after the delisting deadline. And as you can see, there's a huge price difference in that as well. Next slide. So these are some of the fixtures that I helped update to DLC v5.1, the Oro and the altitude. In the drawing, the exploded view, you could see so many different components that were considered for DLC. You can see the drivers, the LED, lens material, optics, housing variations. There are also 3 different kinds of altitudes and 2 different kinds of Oro sizes. And all this is really important. And a lot of the stuff that you don't see behind closed doors are the design work. First, you start off with a scope that checks the electrical measurements and what we need in a luminaire. And we also check with competitive comparisons, and we send it off to the design engineer, and all that is represented. The exploded views you see here are culminations of all that work, and really important for our company to deal with. This is another light that I helped update to DLC v5.1, the CC17K2, and on the right you can see the color vector chart. So on the previous slide you saw an exploded view of just the physical parts, but we also take into account the quality of light, as I mentioned before. And this is just a quick explanation of this. The RF you see on the top left represents how closely the light matches the sun. So 100 would be like a perfect match, and RG is just the saturation value. So the CC17 is really close to matching the light. 76 is 100 is the max value for RF, and RG is max value is 100. So this is really good for an LED, and also important for DLC as well. For Sustainability 2.0, as I mentioned before, it's what we try to do to improve our products and make them more environmentally friendly and improved overall. So this is the PGL8, and what we did here was we tried to see what would happen if we put an amber LED on it. So amber is really nice because it helps turtles in a way that if you put amber lighting around turtles, it helps them reproduce and they're happier. you know, and we also try to see what would happen if we put it through an IK test, because an IK test is basically um, they drop a really heavy weight on the fixture, and if it doesn't break, then it gets IK rated at a maximum of 10. And if we show if we show that a product is IK rated, then it's really good because the customers will see that it can handle harsh conditions and be safe for consumers. So for our new product development, when I was interning, I was lucky to be part of this process of bringing the Prevent family to the real world. So on the left, you could see all the 2-foot fixtures being built, and I was able to support the manufacturing and putting all these together. And in the middle picture, you could see the little software modules that I had to update, and there are 100 of them, and each one took like a really long time to update. So that was really fun to work on. And putting them all together, you see the agent samples on the right. These are really important to bring out to the customers, and the customers can individually check out a finished 1-foot and 2-foot sample, and from that, a company could grow off of their purchases. And while I also had to do the agent samples, these also had to be DLC updated, and they are really good because that function as both indoor and outdoor lights. So we could handle a bunch of products in those areas. So overall, as I mentioned before, there's so many SKUs and there are so many families, as you can see below. And so a really important thing for me to do was to handle everything really efficiently and in a very systemized way, because there's a lot of things to look out for. There's the efficacy, lumen output, wattage, the drivers, um, different kinds of technical specifications that I had to look at for every single family for all the SKUs to see if they were up to DLC standards. And not only did I have to do the DLC, but I had to work really closely with the warehouse to source all the parts, to make sure that the right parts were put into the testing samples to get them all DLC certified, and for just general baseline testing. And I had to make sure that they had to get the right tests. There's several different kinds of tests for photometry, for temperatures, and all that knowledge is really important. And luckily I was able to pass on that knowledge. Recently I just trained the Hubble team in India about DLC. So it's a good thing that my knowledge won't be just ended at the end of my internship and will be passed on for years to come. I would like to thank my mentors, Pratika and Ricardo. They really helped me out throughout this entire process. So thank you to you too. And also thank you to Kevin Liu, who helped out with a lot of just general engineering help with basically my entire internship. So also Edgar in the warehouse, who helped out with sourcing out all the parts for all the test samples and for any hardware issues I came across. And lastly, thank you to Jasmine Herpert and Casey Black for being really great HR representatives and onboarding. Any questions?
Alan, it sounds like we needed to get you with Nick, and you might have been able to help fix that 3D printer in Christiansburg a lot easier. You're there in Southern California, and LA County continues to require masks, face coverings indoors. I know that for all of you this summer, COVID certainly has been a reality that you've had to deal with and address and work around to some extent or another. But Alan, given your situation there in LA County, did you feel or find that the restrictions that were in place prevented you from doing what you wanted to this summer?
I think it really affected everyone in terms of how, for example, for me, I had to, it was largely virtual, and then it slowly transitioned to more in person as the internship progressed. But overall, I think I was able to do everything if I were to do everything, if COVID wasn't in place, then I would still be able to have a pretty fulfilling internship. What really helped is this office is pretty spacious, and there's a lot of room for everyone to go around without having to be in a crowded area. So that really helped a lot. But overall, I think my internship was pretty good, and regardless of COVID or not.
Good, glad to hear.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, with that said, appreciate everyone's participation and watching today, and give you a few minutes back of your day, and everyone have a good day.